Oh, yeah, it works. Yes.
Hey, cool beans.
Okay.
We
Okay.
ain't too bad in our old age.
You speak for yourself. I told you. I got that Benjamin Button. I'm only getting younger with time, baby. Anyway.
I live in the world of delusion, so it's cool.
So we decided at the top of the year to start a book club, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What did we decide to name the book club?
I honestly don't remember.
What was it? First of all, it was an extension of our morning set call. What did we decide that name of that challenge was?
Oh, if I pull it up on my thing, I think my video will close. But you want me to pull it up? Let me see if I can. If I can do a share screen.
Oh, you look so cute in the pic.
Thank you.
Great makeup. Look at that.
So stay there too. Oh man. Okay, let me go to good notes.
Yeah. So anyway, we decided while she's doing that, I'll just keep talking. So we decided to make a book club as an extension of our morning set calls, and that we will read one book a month. So January's book was Rollo May's Man Searches for Himself, and it is now April the 11th. And we are recording our first discussion of the book. What was it called, P?
Oh, my it got deleted.
Okay, no worries. I'll find out later, and that will be the name of our book club. We're open to take members, but I don't know how much. Let's wait a little while on that. Let us get something.
It took me 4 months to read this book.
So
and I will find last stretch, I finished it because I listened to an audiobook. I listened real closely.
That's cheating. You know how I feel about audiobooks.
That's not cheating.
Okay.
I listened very closely.
Well, listen, hell, we was almost halfway through April. Something had to be done. I applaud you for finding a solution to get her done, okay? Now, do you think that, I mean, because there's really no rush, you still read other books. It's not that you're not reading, you are reading multiple books at once. And so that means even after this video, we have 3 more books we have to catch up on in 2 weeks.
Okay. That'll be another 4 months. Cool.
So are we not committing to making this video once a month?
No, absolutely.
Okay, you're just saying the reality is different.
Yeah. Time's imaginary. Anyway,
right.
because like I said, like for this book, it took me so long because there's like so much information. Because remember when we were reading the book, I would read like maybe 3 pages and I was talking to you every single day about what I got from this 1 or 2 pages or something. And it hasn't been that we haven't discussed it. We've discussed the book almost every single day in the 4 months that I've been reading it and the 2 weeks that you took to read it or whatever.
Right,
so,
that's true.
Yeah, for me personally, it was a hard read just because it's so much information to digest. And it's at first you call it cheating. I'm a big audiobook person. So I first got an audiobook and immediately I was like, no, cannot listen to this on audiobook. There's too much information. Like from the very beginning, my brain was like just yeah. So I had to read it. I had to take notes. I have a whole Google Doc that even then I started like halfway through the book and I still have 5 pages of notes, and there's still so much notes that are like commented within the file that I downloaded. So that's why it took so long, but I will say that it's like very interesting because when was this book written? In the 1950s?
I think it was like 1981.
No, I think the republishing is 1981.
True, you're right about that.
I think the first
1953.
There you go, 1953.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because this book kind of so much is speaking about like the end of World War II and the new industry that was happening because of women going to work and all this new anxiety about like the world changing and the Cold War and this and that. But in 2022, these same kind of like neuroses and neurotic problems and like problems of anxiety and depression and like lack of self-awareness or like ability to choose a path for yourself that he was saying in 1953 are still like very prevalent now in 2022.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I found it very strange because, you know, I like to read stuff like this, and every book kept saying, Rollo May, go and read Rollo May. And I actually purchased the book maybe about like 2 years ago, but, you know, I have like stacks and stacks, and I go through, and before I was like, okay, these are the 52 I'll read this year, and then something else will pop up, and then it'll push my list back. So finally, 2 years later, I said, okay, I'm starting off this year with this book. It comes highly recommended. Let's see if I can get through the book. So it took me about, I think I made about 3 videos already that I posted on YouTube. So it took me about 2.5, 3 weeks, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because it was just so much information. It's not a hard read, but it's just so many moments that just make you think of other things where it's just like ting, 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 ting. And just I took the time to sit back and reflect and journal on it, and just really to like take the information and to assimilate it into like my thinking and how I show up. And so I thought the book was amazing. And as you can see, I have normally I read books and I do not have nearly as many marks as this. I maybe read a book and I have about 12 to 15. And I would say like I went through, so you know, you get the little packs and they have like 8 colors on them. So I was sticking to the pinks. I went through like 3 packs of the pinks. Wow. And so let's just go through and I'll just pull up my notes. And then if I pass a page, then you tell me what your notes are and we just kind of, okay. So my first note came out of chapter 1, the loneliness and anxiety of modern man. And it was on page 4. Okay. And it starts from page 3 out, and it says the hollow people. So I just read it. It says, it may sound surprising when I say on the basis of my clinical practice as well as that of my other psychological and psychiatric colleagues that the chief problem of people in the middle decade of the 20th century is emptiness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Absolutely. And I think that like as the book goes on more and more, it explains where some of that emptiness comes from. And a lot of it basically is an anxiety, and that anxiety is rooted in just the unknown. And sorry, can you hear the garden?
A little, not really.
Okay. But in that, I think all of us, because I think one of the first things, the very first sentence after that, he was talking about the lack of autonomy. And that's like the first thing he mentions. And it's like our inability to make decisions. And what happens is when you become an adult, when you're little, you think, oh, when I get an adult, I can do anything that I want. I'm going to know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly where I want to go and this and that, whatever. And it's not that easy at all. And when you finally step into that and you're disillusioned, I think then that's the beginning of the anxiety and the emptiness that you feel because life isn't so easy peasy as you thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. The reason why it made me bookmark because it triggered something that I wrote a long time ago, and it was called Don't Plate My Food. And in it, I was talking about as a child, you know, your parents plate your food. you know, they pick what you're going to eat. They plate it for you. They may even cut it up for you. When you're really small, they feed you, right? Then you start to come into yourself and you go, yuck, I don't like this. Yuck, I don't like that. And just because you don't like it, if it's a favorite of the house or your parents like it or they think you should have it, then they still force you to eat it, right? And depending on what type of parent you have, you know, us native parents, we don't play. We like, you want to sit at this table till all that food done, you know? And
Yeah.
so we, you know, we start to power like, oh, when I get old, you know, I'm gonna not eat this thing. I'm gonna plate my own food. I'm gonna do what I want, you know. And some of us in that moment become rebellious. Like, you know, I had family members like my sister. She would sit at the table all night if that's what it took. All night, like she wasn't eating it. Me, I would just go on, think of something else, swallow it down and move on with my life, you know. But then I always made the promise to myself, like when I get older, I'm, you know, going to go out my way and like plate my own food and make my own choices. And then you grow up and you realize as you go out into the world, like, oh, but I'm grown now and I'm still not making my own choices. Like I still have obligations. Somebody else is, you know, plating my food. There's other things on my plate that I may not necessarily put there, like they come as side effects to other things. And so now I have all of these things on my plate that I didn't really pick, which means that I won't be able to consume them. And my plate is just piling up, piling up, piling up, piling up of food. And it's like, no matter how much you're eating it, because you don't want it, you're still empty. You know, you don't feel full. So it's like you trying to hurry up and eat all of these things that's on your plate, but you're not full. You're still hungry because you're consuming things that you don't want, that don't satisfy you, that don't make you happy. And so although we got so much to do, there's always something to do. We're doing. It's to go task here. I got to do this. We never really feel full and satisfied. We feel empty, even though we're busy. So that's what triggered for me.
I agree that. I think also it's like when you become an adult, you also realize like the path that you want to take isn't usually already paid for you, or it isn't as easy as you think. And so some of these paths that looked really glamorous or looked really awesome, you didn't realize how much hard work went into it. And so getting kind of like that wake up call too may cause like a little bit of anxiety and emptiness, because I think it's fair to say that a lot of people don't want to do that much work. Like all of us would love for things to just be handed to us. Like in truth of the matter, you know, we wouldn't mind someone else making our plate if it was everything that we liked.
Right,
And
that
so
part.
we don't have any problem with someone plating our food if it's what we like. And so we would like to have like kind of like, you know, the easy truth of the matter is that on some level, you're willing to give up your autonomy if all of your needs will be met. Yeah. And since that happens in childhood, but that does not happen in adulthood, just in life and even with the relationships you decide to make as an adult, because as a child, you're giving so much love and affection and taken care of. And your parents usually, if you have really good parents, don't expect anything from you back. And it's hard as an adult to go into those type of places in relationships and to, you're expecting that same thing. The person to just love and adore you and you could just be yourself and nothing has to be reciprocated. And that doesn't happen. So when you put it in just like the life and society of making your own living, of making your own choices, and even in making your own relationships, there's so much anxiety and there's so much work and unpacking and relearning and adjusting that you have to make, that also makes you feel empty, because as you get older, if you're smart, you realize everything you don't know.
Absolutely. And then another aspect of that is once you, even when you go, okay, somebody loved me unconditionally, they know what I want on my plate and they're packing my food, you reach a point in your life where you realize like, oh, even if someone plates my food and it's all the things that I like, that can be a little bit exploitive, a little, you know, manipulative,
Manipulative.
manipulative, because, well, at the end of the day, the whole concept of the book is like putting what you want and what you need in the hands of others, mean that you're leaving it open for others to exploit you. So even if someone else is plating your food and it's what you like, at the end of the day, don't you want to know how to fish? Don't you want to know where your food's coming from? Don't you want to, take pride in preparing your own food? It comes down to, at the end of the day, do you value more being taken care of, or do you value more, taking care of yourself? And in searching for yourself, you realize the true values that will bring you like the peace, the love, the happiness, the joy, the sustainability is taking care of yourself. Like you cooking your food, not only cooking your food, but you want to be able to plant your food. You want to be able to prepare it, cook it, plate it, eat it, consume it, enjoy it while you're consuming it. If it's so good to you, you want to go back for seconds, and you want to clean your plate and put it away, dry it, put it away for the next day, and that's what most people hope to gain in a day. But at the end of the day, they still have this plate and it's filled with all of this mess, and they've been eating all day, and they're like, but I'm no close to, one, being satisfied, or two, seeing the bottom of my plate.
It makes me think about, it's funny, but especially as Black parents, your parents do not let you drink your drink before you eat your food, because they're like, look, you gonna fill up on all that drink and you're not gonna eat your food. So eat your food and then do it. And you like, but I'm just thirsty. Like I'm just thirsty. Like I'll eat some food, but I'm more thirsty than I'm hungry. And so then you're sitting there just eating this stuff, and you're like, look, did I eat enough to now drink my juice? Like I just want to know. It just made me think about that. Like, yeah, absolutely. And interesting is, later in the book, they talk about like freedom, and how as people, most of the time, we're willing to die for our own freedom, even though we may not necessarily know what that means. But any pushback, or I guess like, I can't think of the word, but anytime we feel like there's something that's like causing us to lose freedom, we rebel against, even if it's necessary, like not necessarily something like we truly like believe in, whatever, but it was just like, look, I want the choice to be able to say yes and no. But if you tell me that I have to say no, and I would have said no, but I don't want you to tell me that I have to say no.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you're saying that too is like, when you're saying someone who's willing to plate your food even with everything you have, the truth of the matter is that like what you're saying is like manipulative. It's like at the same time someone is still plating your food. It's everything you like, but you didn't do it yourself. So what if they put too much macaroni and cheese? That's my thing. And I like the right combination of macaroni and cheese and cabbage and cornbread, because I like to mix it all together. If it's too much of one, I love all three, but it just doesn't work. And you don't give me a choice to like go and say, hey, this not more, or I would like a little more of this, I like a little more of that, even though it's everything you like. So I understand what you're saying in that too. Is like sometimes in giving up your autonomy to be taken care of, you don't realize the freedom that you lost. You think you have this new freedom because everything's taken care of, and I'm satisfying all my whims and I have all this free time, but you still kind of live in the confines of someone else's world of what they provide for you.
Right. And it makes me think of two things. One is love make you weak. I'm gonna come back to that one. And the second one being, it matters how the food is prepared. Like for instance, someone's preparing your food, and maybe they do got your proportions right. Maybe they know you like a little cornbread with this amount of, black eyed peas and they got it right. But at the end of the day, if they made it with hate, if they spit in it, if they killed 10 people to get this meal, if they stole the rice, like that type of thing really matters. And in preparing it yourself, you eliminate the possibility of you getting in the crossfire of things that you are unaware of, because people are not perfect. We corrupt, especially with power. When we have the power to, do certain things, too much power causes us to corrupt. I argue any power outside of your own power, leads you to corruption. The second thing is, as far as like this love thing makes you weak, and that doesn't mean that I don't think anybody should have love or give love. The opposite of that. But I'm just saying, like, right now someone's plating your food and they know exactly what you like, but what happens if that person goes away, in which all of us are not guaranteed to be here. So now you don't know how to cook your own food, and the only person who cooked your food is now gone. Now how do you go out there and survive? And so you done made yourself weak by not knowing how to prepare your own meal, how to go fishing, how to get your fill, how to shuck the corn, how to do all of the things that make your survival necessary, because you counted on someone else, and because they loved you, they wanted to give and show love in that way. But sometimes the enabling of you not being independent becomes a burden to you later on in life. And we see that a lot with like parents, they overlove, and then their children are unable to like find solutions on their own and continue to always need the parent because they wasn't taught how to problem solve.
I think especially among our young men.
Absolutely.
Because so many grow up without fathers that their mothers like over coddle them. And so they have a hard time going out into the world and making a home and a place for themselves. Absolutely.
I agree. What's the next bookmark you have? Or the first one for you?
Yeah, can you do yours? I'm on my laptop and it's not pulling up my bookmarks in here, and my Google Doc is starting somewhere else.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we just talked a lot about like this whole, all right, plating your food, because when someone else plates your food for you, it creates an emptiness, even though you may be, fed, you're not satisfied, you're not full with the food that you're receiving. It's kind of like what they talk about now, that it's called negative caloric intake or something, like you can eat and eat and eat, but you're not getting any calories from it. You're actually losing calories. So with that is like this quote on page like 11, it says the human being cannot live in a condition of emptiness for very long. If he is not growing towards something, he does not merely stagnate. The pent up potential turns into mobility and despair, and eventually into destructive activities. I feel like I write that wrong. The human being cannot live in a condition of emptiness for very long. If he is not growing towards something, he does not merely stagnate. The pent-up potential turn into morbid and despair, and eventually into destructive activities. Now, okay, so when I think of like emptiness for too long, I think of like he's not growing towards something, living in the emptiness for too long. He's not growing, he needs to grow towards something. Makes me think of, again, you say when you're young and you're sitting at the table, you go, when I'm grown, I'm going to plate my own food. I'm going to put on there what I want. I'm not going to eat this. I'm going to eat, dessert for breakfast. I'm going to eat 3 o'clock in the morning. And then you grow up, and do you do those things?
No.
It's like you're still living as a really. Yeah. Right. You're still living like as a perpetual child. And it's like, you're just kind of following in the footsteps that you witnessed your parents, live, without you deciding like, oh, did I really want to be a parent? Did I really want to be a wife? Did I really want to be this lawyer? Because I come from a family of lawyers. Did I want to be a college graduate? Because that, that's what my family do. You just kind of do what your family had already, been doing for generations, which is akin to like plating, someone else plating your food, and then you not having a purpose, or you not knowing where you're going. You're just basically falling in line with what's already been done. And it says that you cannot stay there for that long, and you cannot be stagnant. The pent up potential, kind of like the what happens to a dream deferred? Does it shrivel away? Does it die? Kind of that thing. And it's saying no, it turns into morbid despair and destructive activities. So when we kind of think about, you know, just the everyday life of people and their diet not just in like what they eat, but diet as in what you consume, like the music you listen to, the people you talk to, the TV you watch, the food, the drinks, everything, your whole diet, your vocabulary, the way you think, the way you move, all of those things. Like when you think about it, it's like you can see people in their actions that they are living an empty life. Like your life or the things you do not align with values that you created on your own. It's just what people do. And
So you're saying
then
cognitive dissonance.
well, I wouldn't say that, because it's not even just something that we think about. Most people, like if you go and ask people like, oh, why do you work? The answer is like, don't we all work? I got bills to pay. And you're like, oh, okay, so why are you a mother or why are you a father? And they go, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Like, and there's no real deep thought on why. It's just like, this is just what is. So I think that's why I don't believe that it is a form of like cognitive dissonances. It's just more so of like, I didn't know I had another option. I never considered it.
I was thinking more along the lines of people who give advice but don't take their own advice. So like, you know, the diet you're supposed to eat, and you know the way that would best serve you for your health and things like that, but you still, you know, eat fast food, or you still eat the foods that bring you comfort, even though you know, like as an adult, this is the proper path to do. And you may even spew that rhetoric with other people. And then you don't. And so that's what I was saying when you were saying like not just your diet, but also like what you consume of like social media and things like that. And so I think all the time with people's like, you know, people have this thing of like, I want to be a millionaire and I want to do this, but they have no means of how they're going to become a millionaire or things like that. They're just consuming social media and so much other any other kind of media with these people and these lifestyles that they say they want, and they want to do that, and that looks fabulous, whatever. But you continue to sit down on social media and do whatever, and you don't have any, you know, business or, you know, innovative idea that you came up with or something like that. In your mind, the only thing is that I want to be a millionaire, and somehow it's supposed to fall in your lap. Somebody's supposed to magically discover you and your awesome personality. And that's what, you know, blows you up, because, you know, we live in an age where you're a celebrity because you're a celebrity,
right?
You know, and so sometimes people are looking for people to see them and go, hey, you're so funny and you're so whatever. Let me put a lot of money into you, you know, and you become the next big thing.
Right. And what you realize is part of the emptiness is you're not waiting for someone else to come and fill you up, that you actually have what it takes to fill yourself up. And that's what this whole man searches for himself is. You can use your everyday like diet or your activities or your habits and your, you know, what you think to fill yourself up so that you're not feeling empty, that you have a purpose, that you pick your values, you know where you're going, so that every day you wake up with a purpose. You decide what goes on your plate today. You plate what you like, and that you and you plate enough of it that you can consume it. So at the end of the day, it's nothing left on your plate, and everything that you ate, you enjoyed, you know. And so that's kind of like the hope of you know, figuring out as an adult, because he talks about two needs: the need of being taken care of and the need of to take care of something. So balancing your needs of, okay, in what ways am I being taken care of, and in what ways am I, you know, taking care of other people or taking care of whatever. And so without knowing that, then you'll have that emptiness. And only in knowing like, okay, here's what I do to fill up me and to know me, and here's what I do to be loved, kind of like that yin and yang, that the
Mm.
pull of things that most people just don't even, you know, consider. It's just,
Woo,
oh, oh,
I'm out
on
in nature.
to on to business as normal. And then
Mhm.
they have these self-destructive ways. I made a video the other day talking about self-sabotage, and we do a
Mm.
lot of self-destructive things. Like we say, like you was just talking about, oh, I would like to be a millionaire, but you watch 4 hours of TV a day. How? Tell me.
Mm.
Because do other millionaires watch 4 hours of TV a day? Because it's likely that people who are in a same, or who have a same I don't want to like say status, but they acquire a certain thing. They do certain things to acquire that, you know, whatever it is you're talking about. So for instance, if I say I want to be a vegan, then I do certain things to stay a vegan. And
Mhm.
if I go over there with the vegans, then I have things in common with them because we do the same things because it's a lifestyle. But
Mhm.
if your lifestyle doesn't match what you say you want to do, then it means
Mhm.
like you're deluding yourself. It means that you have destructive behaviors, you're self-sabotaging, and you will continue to feel empty until it turns back onto you, you know, disease, illness, whatever it is you want to,
Mm.
that manifests from you not fulfilling your purpose or your dreams.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your next one?
Or wait, you have more to say to that?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
Can you hear
So
my? Can you see my head nodding? Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, I have so many. I'm just like, whoa.
I know.
So then he just talks about why we feel the emptiness. He says the experience of emptiness rather generally comes from people's feelings that they are powerless to do anything effective.
Mm-hmm.
I keep losing my space. Effective about their lives or the world they live in. So it's
Yeah.
like, it makes me think about when I went to the museum in I think it was Georgia. It was Martin Luther King's museum. And
Mm-hmm.
in the back of the museum, they had all of these different like towels down, and one of the towels was like a European American, and they talked about like back in the day that they felt powerless. It's not necessarily that they agreed with what was going on. They didn't agree to slavery or Jim Crow, but themselves felt powerless to do anything about it, you know. And so when we just think about the circumstances that each, you know, race or class is in, I think that overall, a lot of people feel like I'm powerless in the grand scheme of things. Like, what can I do, you know, to fix this problem? And even if they come to the idea of like, oh, I can't do anything, so I just will enjoy myself, which I've come to that conclusion so many times. Like, I can't control other people, I can only control myself. So I'll just focus on myself. And you start to feel guilty because you're having a wonderful experience. You're, you know, enjoying yourselves, and everybody around you are suffering. And so you're like, oh, like, I feel bad. Am I supposed to be having this much fun and everybody around me not having the same amount of fun? And so you're just like, again, it's like that give and pull. You go between feeling, you know, excited that you figured out how to not feel empty, but then you feel sad that others haven't figured it out. And it's like a pull between the two.
Mm-hmm. I think like, and we had this conversation a few times, but I feel like you have to take personal responsibility for yourself before you can even think about taking responsibility for someone else. And before you can take responsibility for someone else, they also have to take personal responsibility for themselves. So I understand what you're saying, and like I like 100%, I agree with that of like being like, hey, you know, I have this, you know, personal like assurance or self mastery or like, you know, self integration or whatever. And so I live life in whatever space it is, you know, and other people don't do that. And I feel like it's not necessarily like I always say, like everybody's purpose is not to cure cancer. And so it's not always like your job either to help other people. You can, sorry, you can be an excellent example for other people. And by all means, I'm a big proponent of like, I'm never going to let you do something without, if I know, the better choice. I'm never going to just be like, I'll let you figure it out on your own, but I don't think it's like necessarily your responsibility until you get like a family, or a community, and you guys have made a choice to be a community, to take personal responsibility for someone else. I think everyone has to do that for themselves. And I think only when someone else has made the choice to even begin to do that for themselves, then you can step in and go, hey, this is what I've learned and this is what I've understand and blah, blah, blah. Until then, you're just speaking into the wind, and you give yourself more stress and anxiety. And in the end, you would also give yourself that feeling of emptiness because you've taken on personal responsibility for someone else who hasn't done it for themselves.
Yeah, and then another, and again, once you reach that understanding, you go to the next level, and so again, I reached that understanding, then I move to the next level, and then it's like, okay, the next level is you take sole responsibility for yourself and you explicitly mind your own business. How do you get over the people, or because he talks about it in this book, like you're going to trigger other people, right? When you know yourself, you trigger other people. And we talk about taking responsibility of yourself. You mind your business, but that don't mean that other people will do the same. Right. This is a shared experience. So even though you go, I'm just going to mind my business, I'll enjoy myself, it doesn't mean that, other people won't go out of their way to try to throw stuff on your plate, push it on your plate, make things hard for you, make you miserable. And then you're always constantly trying to fight with, should I engage or should I ignore? And it can't be always that you're choosing to do either one of them, because it's exhausting, it's overwhelming, And so it's like a lot of it is you not trying to take responsibility for other people, but you also realize, oh, this is a shared experience, and in being quiet about it just makes it so it's more difficult for me and any other person that comes after me. So should I engage? So it's always a plan of like, should I engage? Should I ignore? Should I engage? Should I ignore? Which in itself is a new level of like, emptiness in a sense, because it's just like, I have to deal with people just not letting me be. So now what's the next level?
Well, to me, I would like switch narrative, and I would say it's a new level of personal mastery, because it's this new skill you build of discernment and picking and choosing your battles. And also it's of building more autonomy for yourself and having the personal mastery of the word no. And this is, my boundary. This is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to put myself out for someone else to make sure their life is easier, but I make life harder for myself. And also for, me and you, unfortunately, we trigger people. And so it's at the same time of like, when something happens and, it gets into that moment of, people may say whatever they're going to say, of having that thing of like, I don't receive that. So, I hear what you're saying or whatever, but I don't receive that. And also at the same time of you being like, hey, I also mind my business, but I'm building a discernment of what to say. It's also like you also build a personal mastery of finding that nice line of what you call like nice nasty in your boundaries. And I'm awesome at nice nasty, but it's just like it's not to be like rude or condescending, but just like in that space of being like, hey, this is what happened and this is what's going on, and I'm not dealing with that. And and it gets in that space of people go, hey, that's your opinion, whatever, and go, no. When you have that personal mastery, you go, no, that's my experience. And this is what I'm experiencing right now, and I don't receive that, so I'm pulling myself out of the thing. And I'm going to go back into my bubble and minding my business. And, you go mind whoever else business you want to. And, building those personal like boundaries for yourself, and even like having to take the initiative to cut away some of those things, because the book does talk about later of that, like, in those relationships of love, it's not obligatory. The people you should love should be a choice.
Right.
And you are allowed to have that choice. And especially in Native families, we are not taught that you have a choice in your family of who you can love.
Right.
You may have a choice of who you like, but you don't have a choice of who you can love. And family is everything, and you always take care of your family. And it takes a lot of unlearning, and like you say, taking autonomy for yourself and self-integration, and like a lot of like introspection to learn that, like, no, that toxic family member, even if it's your mother or grandmother or sibling, doesn't have to be an integral part of my everyday life and the family that I've chose to make.
Right. Because in the book, it talks about, like, again, we're born to a safety net, or what is supposed to be a safety net is a family. And it doesn't guarantee to be that when you're born in the family that you're going to be like-minded. Y'all may have completely different values. And so what do you do? The book talks about, like, what do you do when you're born into a family and you're trying to self-actualize in the family won't allow it. They won't allow for you to do that, where, especially at a younger age, you're trying to, say no, you're trying to define yourself, you're trying to understand yourself. And then again, they're saying you're going to eat these peas because I say you're going to eat these peas. And at 6, you don't like peas. But mama making you eat peas, you see what I'm saying? And then you grow up eating peas and you forget that you don't even like them. And it's not until, I hate when it's something bad, but it's not until something happens. I think initially it's a little whisper, and then, it goes into a yell and a tap and a push. Hopefully you don't have to get to a push before you realize, like, oh, I don't like peas. These are not my values. These were values that were here before I got here. My family gave them to me. My culture gave them to me. These institutions gave them to me. Society gave them to me. And they don't necessarily serve me. As a matter of fact, they make me feel empty. And I don't do enough of the things that make me feel satisfied and fulfilled. And when I do those things, the people who said that they love me the most are the people who have the most problems with me doing it. So if I want to set a boundary with a family member or a friend, and I'm saying, hey, this is what I need for me to be my best self, then it's not just a matter of, like, I want you to be your best self, so go ahead and take care of it. It's a matter of, like, guilt trip, and he talks about, like, shame and guilt and all types of exploitive techniques that people may or may not even know that they're using to keep you from self-actualizing.
Or better yet, I would say to keep you in line of where they feel comfortable with you.
Right.
And not what you're going into being comfortable with yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the interesting thing, it makes me think about that is because, well, I have children, but anyway, they don't have children. And I'm clearly Muslim, but even like my oldest child, when I talk to them and they say something like, oh, like when we're older and Muslim, I'm like, if that's what you decide to do, I raise you in this house. This is a Muslim household. I would teach you like my understanding of, like, my religion and my values. But by all means, the rest of my family was Muslim, and my dad didn't raise me to be any type of thing. My dad always taught me, like, to go on about your way and discover things for yourself. And, I went through many different paths, and now I'm here. And truth of the matter, I've always said, like, I don't know if this is the last stage. In 10 years, I might be Hindi. I don't know. But, when I come to like more understanding and learning, whatever, and I leave that same thing open for my children. But I realized, like, maybe how in some instances that for my dad, maybe for that was like a little liberal, especially in, Black households, because you're very clearly something. And so now in this new age of like with my own children of saying, hey, you know, your own path, or like I have something, I'm like, hey, try it. And you know, my oldest is like, and I'm just like, this is what we have for dinner. And she's like, I don't like it. And I'm like, eat cereal then, you know. But if it was me, it would have been like, that's what we have, eat it or go to sleep.
Right. Right.
Right. It was no like make a sandwich, make cereal. It was like
right.
eat and sleep. Yeah. And so it's just like those moments of like, you realize like when you get older of those moments that stick with you, of those little resentments that you had when you were little. And so to me, like, I never like deny my children when they're hungry. I'm never like, oh, wait till we get home or do this, whatever. If they're hungry, then I'm like, okay, go get a snack. But I hated growing up of being like out somewhere and be like, Mom, I'm hungry. And I understand like the mode of being like, hey, we don't have enough money or something like that. But the one thing I have is in my purse, there's snacks. There's bottles of water, there's chips, there's whatever. Because I understand those things. I'm like, why couldn't my parents do that? And the one thing I hated was being somewhere and they're like, don't ask for nothing. Don't go to these people's house acting like you hungry. We'll eat when we get home. And then they're there for like 3-4 hours. And you're like crawling in the house, like so hungry. And then they need like 30 minutes to make hamburger helper, which you do not want. And it's just like, oh, it's just like, like those things of addressing like even your children's own personal autonomy is like they're hungry, like feed your children. And so me remembering that is like, you know, if my children are like, you're hungry, I'm like, okay, I might not be necessary to buy McDonald's, but look, I'll buy you, you know, a little snack, like
right,
you know, like a little pack of gummies. You're happy, you're, you know, whatever, and get you a juice, and then I can get home and, you know, make dinner, whatever. But it's not like, no, don't touch nothing. We'll be home in a second. Let me finish, you know, this grocery shopping and running these other errands. And then you'll just eat when you get home.
right.
And so, yeah. And so you forget like those type of things, like I'm 35. I still remember that. And I still feel some kind of way about that to this day, you know? So like, absolutely. You have to like allow that, like, address that for other people and allow that space, like even in your children. And truthfully, when you do that, you might find that you have less rebellion. Anyway, I mean, there's always going to be some, especially with your children, because your children want to climb buildings and see if they can fly. But just like in the everyday world, when you allow people just to be themselves, especially with grown adults, and they say, hey, you know, I want to start this business. Our initial things go, hey, it's not the right time. How are you going to make way for your family? How are you going to make money? It takes a lot of things to make a business, blah, blah, blah. And so you're trying to keep them in line. And all you need to do is say, okay, cool. You know, it's your life. Like, what is your business doing that? And if you have some business acumen, if you have some advice about that, like, and they ask you, you can share that. But I don't think it's like, a lot of people take it upon themselves to be the big brother, big sister for other people.
And we talk a lot about that because I believe that that's in an effort to not have to deal with yourself. Human beings, listen, we will go into space, deep in the water, climb mountains, wrestle crocodiles. We will do anything not to do the internal work, because at the end of the day, a lot of the questions or concerns or things that we invest ourselves in, it doesn't even affect our life. So it's like, why are we investing our time in that instead of ourselves?
It's a distraction.
Yes, it's mostly, listen, the whole premise of this book is once you start to pick your values, you realize 80% of what you're doing in your life do not align with the values you've chosen. You realize that you're just distracting yourself, that you are practicing self-destruction, self-sabotage, by one, not knowing yourself, and two, doing the things that are opposite of what you value. And so you cannot begin to get your life in order until you know what you value and know where you're going. Until then, you are just out there blowing in the wind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like a few weeks ago, like reading this book had that thing, and I had like a serious conversation with my husband of like, hey, you know, I was reading this and it made me realize something. You might want to talk about that. Not another bad, but you know, absolutely. Like it opens you up and be like, hey, is this life I'm living maybe in these like values that were ingrained when I was little or whatever, really the thing that I actually like believe in and I have conviction in. And maybe it's not, maybe I'm just keeping in line with, you know, the path that's been set for me.
So let's talk about that, the word conviction, because I don't really hear anyone ever talk about it. Like we hear about faith, we hear about hope, but I think conviction is a function of you know, hope and faith. Because let me think about it. When I think about faith, faith is a matter of believing even when you have no reason to believe. And I'm thinking hope is more like wishful thinking. And so I think you would need conviction for both faith and hope, because without them, it like faith is like you need conviction in whatever, because even still, like, remember, it's making me think this whole conviction idea makes me think of, remember I told you the other day I watched the interview with Regina Hall, and she was saying like she was in the tub with her friend, and then like some shirt came in and it just dropped. You know what I'm saying? And then she just never really thought about it, right? So the experience happened, and here it is 30, 40 years later, she's still talking about it. But at the same time, she didn't really have any like conviction of anything more. She was too young to be convicted of anything more. You see what I'm saying? Like, had somebody had told her before that happened, like, that means this and this and this, or something's going to happen to you, or somebody's coming for you, then seeing that probably would have like freaked her out really badly. And because her belief in it, conviction is like belief. And I think that you can have faith and hope without belief. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even belief, conviction is deeper than belief, because it is the experience of it. Like belief is like, I think it, you know, like I know it. But like conviction is like I know it and I experience it. I feel it.
I think, well, to me, I've always thought to like have true faith, you have to have a conviction. And when you have that faith, then you have hope. Faith gives you hope. That's what I always thought. So it's kind of like a domino effect. For example, your business, and you have a strong conviction about your business model and about stress relief and personal mastery and you know, character ethics and people over profit in business. And that strong conviction gives you faith in what you are doing and building your business, and gives you hope. That faith gives you hope in expanding your business and that your business would do well. But I'm saying your conviction gives you faith in yourself, excuse me.
Okay, yes.
What you're doing. And so that gives you hope to start your business and build your business.
Right.
That's how I understand it.
I agree, but I also think they could be standalone too. Because a lot of people, if you go and ask them, they think that they're going to be rich. That's their whole I'm going to be rich thing. And they be like, oh yeah, I hope, I have faith. But it's like,
faith in what though? But faith in what though?
But that's what I'm saying. That's what they say, like faith without conviction is nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like you have a lot of people who have faith in things or who hope. And hope to me is, again, like wishful thinking, like, oh, I hope that person is not going to run the red light. It's not serious. But like faith is something that is like supposed to be serious, but you're supposed to have conviction in it. in order
Right.
for it to even like manifest. But a lot of
Right.
people have
I'm saying,
faith without conviction.
absolutely. Like people, okay, so say like I'm gonna be a millionaire and I have faith in the universe. But you have like no real conviction because you don't like have any affirmations for yourself.
Right.
And so there it is. Excuse me. Go ahead to the next point.
Look at my cute little nephew. So cute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go in and out of mute a little bit, and if you see me look to the side, keep going. I'm listening.
Well, I think you know what I mean, we could just go ahead and just wrap up any like other key, because we basically, to me, we ran through the whole book and we put it in like a practical context of like, yes.
Well, there was one point. There's a couple of points that actually I have to, but that's what I was saying. Like, I feel like it would be more than one video, or to be like a very long video, because there's one part that we talked about and we talked about a lot. And I just wanted to like expand on it more. And it was a
Okay.
part of.
So you want to do multiple videos?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next one I want to talk about, like part 3, was like the goals of integration, and specifically like the part about hatred and resentment at the price of denied freedom.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to end it here. We're going to do 2 more videos on this book. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to end this and we're going to post it. And by the time we come back, and listen, these other 2 videos we're going to do this week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And look, when we come back, we're going to have a real name. We don't even have a book club name. Like, I feel like we wrote it down, but we need to have a book club name.
In my good notes, and I got kids and they deleted the whole, remember the whole thing?
Darn. Okay. Well, by the time we come back, we need to have a name, because I'm about to publish this and like, what I'm supposed to put it under?
I thought it was something woes or something, but we had an acronym for it.
Yeah, I thought it was something like that too. We need to figure that out. And so we'll do 2 more videos on this. And do you like, so you, what's the next book? Like, for real, do we really want to sit down, like think about whatever next book we really do? We had to sit down and have a discussion about it. You really want to discuss the book that we were thinking about? Like,
no, if you read it,
okay.
If you read it, you can discuss it.
Okay, we know I'm a little biased, and so I'm just trying to get around, you know.
Look, I'm biased too. It took me 4 months to read your book. You can read my little sticky book, okay?
I'm just saying, like, I just can't picture reading a book about, you know, European American staring at himself in the mirror all day. I just, it doesn't sound that appealing, but I'll give it a try. P. You frozen, girl. Hello? Well, I guess that's all for this video. We're going to record 2 more videos for Man Searches for Himself. Look forward to them. Oh, wait, she joined in another one. Oh, cool. Ooh, that was cool.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It just blanked out. And I was like, did my tablet die? Like, what happened? It was just gone. I was like, oh no. I got it back together. So I'm proud of myself. I got back in smooth. I didn't think I was able to do that.
You did come in smooth. You did.
I did. Because I'm old now. You know I'm old because I started to do my phone like this.
So what was the last part you heard me say?
Girl, I don't know.
I was just being a little honest and saying like, reading a book about a European American who looks in the mirror all day doesn't seem that appealing, but I'll give it a try. I'll give it a shot.
Look, you reading all these, like, while they may be informative, You reading all these other European Americans, okay? You can read my one little European American, all right?
No. I'm gonna read it. It's just the context of the story. I gotta like it's vanity. He's just gonna be looking in a mirror all day. Like this is what the story is about.
He doesn't look in the mirror all day. He doesn't look in the mirror all day.
Okay.
It's just like the progression of a person. I'll let you read it. But it's like the progression of a person as they become more cynical and like more vain and more greedy, you know, in that. And it's like how to the world it looks one way, but how that really affects your soul.
Okay, and I feel like this, since it's your book, we could finish it by the end of April.
Yeah, I can be done with that. I can read that type of book. You the one who's gonna take a long time.
No, listen, it's a little bitty book. It's like this big. It's a pocket book. Listen, I could read that in like, all right, I'm gonna just be honest with myself. I could sit down and read it in like 2-3 hours, but I feel like that's not my type of book. And so
I think it's a 2-3 hour book.
It's
not a 2-hour book. It's like a 2-day book.
You sure? Because it was on my book. It was only like 200 pages and it's like this big.
But it's tiny little print. Yours is tiny little print. Because yours is like little cute, what is it, decorative book. Okay. I got a real book.
Okay, well, definitely in 4 days. I don't see it taking a week. And you know when I read books that don't really resonate with me, I just read through it so I could just be done with it. So I stop reading for understanding. I just be like, I'm ready to be done with it.
I understand. Because the last part of this book, I'm like, I read it. The last part, I don't know what it's about, but I read it. And I read it again. Be done with it. I read
it. Okay, well, so we're gonna finish the last 2 videos on this book this week, and then like I will be done. The day is Monday. I will be done Dorian
by Friday.
Definitely.
Okay.
So we could record again on either Sunday or Monday. I'm talking about as far as for Dorian, but we're gonna record a couple of days this week to finish this book out.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Do you know who it is? Okay, I'll talk about that off camera, huh?
Oh, you know, stop recording.
Yeah, let me press stop real quick.